Welcome back, folks, to #AskGSM, where I answer all your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube right here in this video form. As always, if you want to send in a question, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM, on the Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or on the wall itself, or of course right here on this very video in the comments section down below. So, pre-note here, I'm taping this before Raw. It's going up after Raw. So a lot of the questions, or some of the questions anyway, might be a little dated. We might get some answers tonight on Raw. So just a little note there, but before we get started, just wanted to point that out. So getting down to this week's questions, without further ado, from the first KFC from YouTube, should Kalisto's first title win have been saved for the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, and how stupid was it for him to lose it 3 days later to Alberto Del Rio? I think it was just probably to kind of inject some unpredictability into the current product on Raw. I mean, we expect title changes on pay-per-view. It was a bit more of a shock for it to change hands on Raw, and especially on SmackDown. I mean, we've had title changes on Raw before. I think the last time the U.S. title changed hands on Raw before last week, I think, was in May of 2014 when Sheamus won in that Battle Royal. So a little under 2 years ago, so it's been a while. For SmackDown, the first title change we've had, period, on that show in 3 years. I couldn't tell you the last time the U.S. title changed on that show. Maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's been a very long time. But that in mind, they just wanted to kind of switch up the formula for Raw and SmackDown, which I applaud, which I've been saying they should have done. They should have been doing, months ago when they first had Sting wrestle his first match on Raw, basically out of nowhere, without any hype, which was a little questionable. But, it's the same thing every single week. Opening talking segment. They got to find more ways to switch things up, and a surprise title change, I'm all for it. Was it dumb for him to lose it on SmackDown 3 days later, or 4 days later, the next day at the taping, whatever? Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it was dumb. I think I never agreed technically with short title changes. I don't think they're ever really worth it. I'm more in favor of long title changes. Long title reigns. Doing quick title changes and hot potato booking and stuff like that never really have been my cup of tea. But that being said, though, I feel like there's a lot of people that are just completely outraged by them taking the title off of Kalisto as quickly as they did, and I'm completely in agreement with that. They should not have taken the title off of him 3 days later, at the expense of Kalisto, just to boost the rating for SmackDown. I think the rating went down anyway. But still, I feel like Kalisto deserves a longer reign with that title, and he will get it eventually. I'm not, like I said, I'm not as outraged as some other people are. One, because it gave us our first title chance on SmackDown in quite a long time. Two, he'll get the belt back eventually. And three, he was protected in defeat on SmackDown. I mean, he tapped up pretty quickly, but that's just because Del Rio went to work on the arm a lot during that match. So it's not the worst thing that could have possibly happened. And he'll get the belt back eventually, maybe as soon as Sunday. Maybe we'll find out some more on tonight on Raw in regards to whether a rematch will be held at the Royal Rumble. I certainly hope so. We only have the Rumble match, which is going to be for the title, so it's not like in years past where we have the title match or two, world title matches, and then the Rumble match. As of right now, we only have the Rumble match for the title, and then the Last Man Standing match, which is going to take up a whole chunk of time. I have no doubt about that, but they're going to need at least one or two other matches. The Divas title match, obviously, which is yet to be announced. Again, maybe tonight on Raw. And I would go with the U.S. Championship match as well, Del Rio and Kalisto. I would finally give the belt back to Kalisto and have him, go on a nice little reign with it. Go on a nice little run with that championship. Because Del Rio, honestly, I don't hate Del Rio as champion. It's better than some other, scenarios that we could have right now. But he's just not lighting the world on fire as champion. He hasn't done anything. He's a good worker. But since he came back to the company 3 months ago, he really hasn't done anything too much of note. I mean, he's been champion, but he's defended the title, once, twice against Jack Swagger? That's about it. So, I would put the belt back on Kalisto at the pay-per-view. Maybe you could drag it out till WrestleMania. I don't think they're capable of doing that, of long-term booking and stretching feuds out. I don't think it's going to be a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. I'm sure they're probably just going to throw him right into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or something along those lines. Same thing with Del Rio. But it would be nice if we did get a one-on-one match between him and Del Rio at WrestleMania, or Kalisto and another guy for the U.S. Championship. But I would give the belt back to him, hopefully as soon as Sunday at the pay-per-view. His second question, should AJ Styles be in the Royal Rumble match? Absolutely. I mean, I know it's kind of leaked out, quote-unquote, that people, it's been reported by credible news sources, reporters, Dave Meltzer, whatever, I forgot what the exact source was, but it has since been reported that he was supposed to be originally an entrant in the Royal Rumble match on Sunday as a surprise, which would have been amazing, but it's still going to be equally amazing if he is in the Rumble match. And I feel like it'd be more stupid, it'd be stupider of WWE to take him out of the match at this point than to keep him in, even though it's not technically a huge surprise. It's still going to be a surprise regardless, but now that some people have kind of seen it coming, to wait until the night after WrestleMania would be great, but I feel like that's just waiting too long. You got to capitalize on the buzz. You got to capitalize on the momentum from all the reports and what he's been saying and, like, indie shows over the weekend that he said, save a spot for me in the Rumble and all this kind of stuff. I feel like it'd be a waste. It'd be a waste if they did not have him debut in the Rumble match, which is all about unpredictability and surprises anyway. It's a perfect opportunity to have him debut in the Rumble. I don't think anyone's really debuted in the Rumble before. Bo Dallas, Rusev, those are NXT guys. Vader, I think, debuted in the Rumble, but that was kind of hyped up beforehand. AJ Styles, as a complete surprise, would be one of the very few instances, if not the only instance, that something like that has ever happened. Especially if he went far in the match and he kicked off his WrestleMania feud, his WrestleMania program, or teased the feud between him and another star in the Rumble match would be amazing. So I don't want to see them pull what they did in 2009 with Christian when he was supposed to be the original attacker behind the Jeff Hardy storyline back in late 2008, early 2009. And he was supposed to be going into WrestleMania in a match with Jeff Hardy, but because fans knew about it, which back then, which was maybe, 5-10% of the fan base, even if that, which I know back in the day it was like, 10% of the audience is the IWC, is the internet wrestling community, reads the online dirt sheets. That's almost everyone nowadays, because everyone is on the internet. So that percentage, that statistic that Eric Bischoff threw out there 2 decades ago, 10 years ago, may have been true then, but nowadays everyone's on the internet, everyone knows what's going on, so that's not true. But back then anyway, even in 2009, very few people knew about the Christian thing, but because it had leaked online through whatever, source or route or whatever it was, they nixed it. They put Matt Hardy in that role instead. We got a great match out of them at WrestleMania, don't get me wrong, but the feud would have been so much better had it been Christian and Jeff Hardy. And again, Christian got a nice run on ECW, but the bottom line is to nix something just because the fans know about it is not, it makes no sense, especially if what they're going to do makes sense originally. For the sake of swerving fans, it's not worth it. So I'm hoping they continue with the plan, or if that was indeed the plan, to have Styles be in the Rumble match as a surprise and whatever. It'd be more disappointing at this point if he wasn't in the Rumble match than if he is, even though it's been known, it's been seen coming for a while now. If there's any place to do it, it would be in the Rumble match, if not the night after WrestleMania, but you can't wait another 3 months. You have to do it now. It's got to be as soon as Sunday in the Rumble match. Frankishire 15. What is one thing the main roster does better than NXT? That's a great question. I can't really answer it. I know WWE put out a survey a couple weeks ago comparing the two brands, which was very interesting. They sent it out to their fan council. I don't know how you get involved in it. People have asked me. I have no idea. I just get random emails from them. I know I sent one out, or I think I filled one survey out for them right after the Raw that I went to in October in Boston. And maybe that's what got me on the email list. I really have no idea. But that said, though, I think the survey that I'm talking about, the one between NXT and WWE that they asked me to compare the two brands, which brand is what better than the other one. I think they also asked me about something else too. It might have been just NXT, but also like where do you get your wrestling news, all these other bizarre questions. And looking at what NXT does better than WWE was almost in every single category. And I took a picture of it and I put it on Twitter, and I wasn't joking. I mean, you look at every single category, storylines, matches. I mean, more often than not, the main roster has some pretty great matches, but NXT, I feel like even in their takeover specials, they feel just that. They feel special. They don't like a pay-per-view comes and goes and they're just kind of there. You expect a pay-per-view, and pay-per-views can still be special. I mean, at least for me, the Rumble, WrestleMania, even SummerSlam still feel like amazing, special, once-in-a-lifetime or, once-a-year occurrences. With the takeover specials, every single one has delivered. And I know we have 4 takeover specials, 4 to 5 a year, versus the 12 pay-per-views a year. But just everything that NXT does is so old school, it's traditional, it's simple, and it's freaking effective. And that's why I feel like they do so many things better than the main roster. But going back to your original question here, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what the main roster does better than NXT. I know they're a full-time job. It's a lot harder to maintain 60 guys as opposed to maybe 20 or 30. I understand that. I'm taking that into complete consideration here. But just, off the top of my head, what the main roster does better than NXT, I couldn't tell you. Maybe someone has a better answer for you because I could not tell you. I feel like NXT in every single cylinder does pretty much everything better, if not as good as the main roster. Again, I couldn't tell you. Maybe video packages, but even NXT's had some pretty amazing video packages. It's the same company. I know they're two different brands technically, but the NXT brand still, uses the production teams of WWE. I mean, go back and watch the video package for Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn from Our Evolution 2014, or the the Banks and Bayley match, the first one for Brooklyn. Even the second one was great, but the first one for Brooklyn was amazing. Probably the best women's video package that I've ever seen from any women's Divas match, whatever the hell you want to call it, in WWE. So yeah, I couldn't tell you. Maybe someone else can tell you that there is one thing they do better than NXT, but off the top of my head, I just can't think of anything. Captain Sunshine's got a couple questions here. First one being, would you have preferred to be in the Hulk Hogan's golden age or Sting's golden age? I don't know how familiar you were with the 80s, 90s, but I, for one, will always choose Sting. For me, again, I'm not too familiar with at least Sting's golden age, like the early 90s, late 80s, NWA, early WCW. I'm not too familiar with that kind of stuff. The closest that I've come to watching those kind of things was, I think, Starrcade 83, A Flair for the Gold. I watched that on the network about a year ago. And I also watched the first 2 to 3 episodes of Nitro when Sting was still doing, the surfer gimmick. Other than that, I'm not really knowledgeable, or not even knowledgeable, but just, I don't know what the word for it would be. It's escaping my mind right now, but very, not even up to date. I don't know what the word would be, but I don't really watch that much of the golden age of Sting when he was coming into the business, and AWA and NWA, early WCW. I've watched a lot more 80s wrestling from WWF with the old SummerSlams and Rumble, Survivor Series, WrestleManias, and I love the 80s. I mean, I just love the 80s in general, just the idea of them, the music that came out of that time, the amazing movies. I still say to this day that the 80s were the best time for movies. We had a lot of great movies in the 90s, especially with Disney and Pixar and stuff, and especially in the last 15 years, but I still say the 80s were the best decade for movies, period. Even fashion and music, like I said, was just a great decade. And if there was any one decade that I wish I could have been a part of, it would have been the 1980s, specifically for wrestling as well. And you go back to these old pay-per-views, and they're just a lot of fun. Some of the wrestling matches can be boring. I understand that. It's a lot different from today. And if you've only watched the 2000s era, the 2000s wrestling, or even the 2010s only, you're going to be bored undoubtedly by the stuff in the 80s. That's kind of to be expected. But if you branch out, you kind of try some old 80s pay-per-views, especially these old WrestleManias and SummerSlams. Survivor Series, I feel like, did the 80s the best. Those were the best and most fun pay-per-views. But yeah, I'd have to go with Hulk Hogan's age, man. I mean, I watched those old shows, those old pay-per-views, the programming from the 80s for WWF, and it was just a lot of fun with Hogan. I mean, my top 3 favorite legends of all time were Hogan, in no particular order: Hogan, Warrior, and Savage. And you throw Piper in there, Dusty Rhodes, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Jake the Snake Roberts. These long list of characters, Andre the Giant, that just felt like comic book heroes, and it was just a lot of fun to be a wrestling fan. Not to say that now currently isn't. For a lot of people it isn't. You can't compare the two eras. It's just two very different points in time in wrestling. But if I had to choose, it would have to be Hulk Hogan's Golden Age, just because I'm a lot more familiar. That's the word I'm looking for, that I was looking for before. I'm a lot more familiar with Hulk Hogan's Golden Age in the WWF as opposed to Sting's. Not to say it was superior in any way, but what would I prefer? Probably Hogan's Golden Age. Their second question: am I crazy for actually being interested in a Ryback alliance with Bo Dallas, Adam Rose, Heath Slater, and a reunion with Curtis Axel? No, I wouldn't say you're crazy. I mean, I think it's better than nothing for Ryback. I'm still a huge Ryback fan, but he's not really doing much right now. He's just kind of floundering. It seems like he's in a mid feud with the Wyatt family, which is alright, but we already kind of saw Ryback and Wyatt for a cup of coffee last spring, and I don't really want to see it again. The match was okay, but not good enough where I'm like, oh, I want to see a rematch, So hopefully that's not the plan going into WrestleMania, is to do a Ryback social outcast match versus the Wyatt family. That would be terrible. But a Ryback, the Ryback, I guess, getting involved with the social outcast, I think would be nice. It'd be something, a nice change of pace. I was never a huge, what was their tag team name? Rybaxel fan. I thought it was a very random-ass tag team. But especially towards the end there, we finally started to see some charisma from Axel that kind of led into his Hulkamania thing, or Axelmania thing from the early 2015. And Ryback, too, finally started to show some charisma, which was great. So having him align with those guys could be comedy gold. I mean, again, it's better than nothing for Ryback. The Social Outcasts, I think, have some potential not to be like world champions or one of the greatest factions of all time. But I think the faction can be entertaining, especially for guys at that level, and you throw Ryback in there who's, again, not doing anything. It's better than nothing. It could be entertaining, so I wouldn't call you crazy for being interested in seeing that because it could have some potential. His next question, finally on Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens. It's been a good feud, but do you get the feeling they're a little too restrained? That's a good question. Maybe a little bit. I feel like it's not. I wouldn't say that their matches feel limited or they're holding back. I feel like with a lot of feuds that we've seen, I had that feeling with Jericho and Wyatt, and also Wyatt and Ambrose in 2014, early 2015. The matches that those guys had throughout that time frame, I felt like were limited. I felt like we were getting only a little bit of what they were capable of. They were all good matches, but I felt like they weren't as great as they could have been. The Ambrose-Owens matches, and I know you said in your comment, I didn't read off the whole comment here in your question, but you did say in your comment that the match at TLC was like, fine for what it was, but it could have been better. I mean, maybe it was just because I was there, but I thought the TLC match was really, really good. Not a TLC match, but the match at TLC, obviously, was very good. One of the better matches on the card. Might have been just because the finish was not seen coming. It was not predictable. It wasn't obvious. It was a nice change of pace to see Ambrose win a piece of gold for once. So that was cool. But I thought the TLC match was good. Like you said, the SmackDown one, as you said in your comment, the match on SmackDown a few weeks ago was pretty good, but again, it could have been better. I enjoyed that matchup too, but yeah, I feel maybe a little bit restrained, but for the most part, maybe especially on the promos. I mean, most of what we've seen, it's been a very good feud so far. The matches have been great in my opinion. If we could get even the contract signing, remember right before Survivor, no, it was right before TLC, because the feud had zero build, so I could not have cared less for that match going into the pay-per-view, but the feud is really filled out since TLC. But since then, anyway, I think the promos, not that they could be better, but I feel like that if there's any area that they're being restrained in, isn't the matches, it's the promos. That contract signing that I just mentioned from SmackDown before TLC, not that it was disappointing, but it was just a sliver of what could have been. They didn't really go off on each other. I think it was Ambrose, or rather Owens in the ring for like 10 minutes talking with his lawyer about the match, and then Ambrose came down and beat him up. And that was it. We never really got a full, what they were capable of producing on the mic, a back and forth between the two. So it was kind of disappointing. So I'm waiting for that one breakthrough promo. Not a contract signing. They're so cliche. But if you could just put those guys in a ring with no freaking script, and I know it's hard to do that nowadays because everything is scripted, everything is blah, blah, blah. At the very least, just give them bullet points, and that's it. Just let them go off on each other. I'm not saying you have to call them, oh, you're a bastard, you're a dickhead, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to use obscenities to get a reaction from the crowd. If you just let them go into each other, they're both great enough mic workers. I'm sure they can find something to latch onto and just create magic on the mic. We're waiting for one of those breakout promos between these two guys together, much less alone, but together I feel like there's magic to be made there, especially in the promo department. Next question comes from Mark S. from, I put YouTube, but it's from Facebook. That was my bad. What is your overall favorite battle royal at the Royal Rumble of all time? So basically my favorite Royal Rumble match of all time. I've talked about this before. Probably it's a toss-up between 2010 and 2011. I know people will say, oh, 1992, that's easily the best, but my favorite is what you're asking here. I did not order 2011. I did watch that Rumble live. It was a great show. I look forward to watching that show back in the next couple days. The 2010 one I just rewatched about a week ago. It's a great freaking show. Just because that was the first ever pay-per-view I ordered, so kind of have that emotional attachment to it. The Rumble match itself I thought was really, really good. A lot of great stories with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Batista, Jericho, the returning Edge. Even Legacy, Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, oh my god, it was great. Beth Phoenix coming in. We had a lot of great factors in one Rumble match, so I'd have to go with 2010. The 2011 one I thought, some people say it was too many people, the 40-man. I liked it. I thought I thought it should have been brought back. And I understand why it can't be, or at least it won't be anytime soon, just with a thin roster. But I enjoyed it, and the surprises with Booker T and Nash coming back were amazing. So that's easily my second, but number one has to be the 2010 installment. My favorite Royal Rumble match of all time is the 2010 match. His second question: what is your opinion about the stipulation for Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens match at the Royal Rumble, last man standing? Personally, I do not want to see either of the wrestlers out for the count of 10. Would Falls Count Anywhere stipulation have been better? I know there's not a lot of hate, but just a lot of people do not like, from what I've noticed anyway, the last man standing matches, because they can be very boring. I feel like last man standing matches can be hit or miss. They can either be very, very good or very, very just beyond boring. Like the Orton and Triple H matches I thought were pretty boring. The last man standing matches they had, but they didn't really have much good chemistry to begin with. Like I thought Triple H and Michaels, I thought the Rumble 04 was a great last man standing match. Even Del Rio and Big Show, also at the Rumble from 2013, was a pretty decent match. I thought, especially who was involved. Del Rio can be a boring wrestler at times, and Big Show is just beyond boring, but they found good chemistry together, and they had a very good last man standing match. I feel like the match on Sunday is going to be great. It's amazing to see. I don't think we've ever had a last man standing match before for the Intercontinental Championship. Maybe we have. You can point one out to me, but I can't remember at any point in the last couple of years anyway, in the last 10 years probably, that we've had a last man standing match over the Intercontinental Championship. So that's a great change of pace. Falls Count Anywhere, I feel like we just get a lot. Not that it's a bad match, but I just feel like, we get street fights and no disqualification, no holds barred. They're all the same thing. Falls Count Anywhere, you can just pin anyone anywhere. And we just get those matches so often that I feel like it would have been like, that's cool. But I feel like last man standing, to me anyway, those matches still feel like they mean something. A big blow off to a rivalry, more often than not, and they pack a punch. They feel like a big deal. They haven't been stripped down of their specialness. They haven't been emasculated, so to speak. They still have meaning. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the match. I feel like the last man standing stipulation is befitting of the feud. Falls Count Anywhere also would have been good, but I feel like last man standing really captures how much this final match means in the feud between Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose. His next question: are you happy with the Divas title match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte? I think they could have had some great matches, or I think they have had some great matches, but wonder now, is too many matches between the two taking place. Would a battle royal to determine a female wrestler to face Charlotte later in the night for a Divas title match between would be a nice alternative. Maybe the physical presence of Tamina Snuka gets a shot and see her square up against the daughter of Ric Flair. What is your opinion? Completely nixed on the Tamina idea. She is not good at all. So everything else about your comment, I completely understand. It's a decent alternative. But I feel like we have a great feud going on between Becky and Charlotte. You're saying too many matches? We've had, 2 matches? I know we had the one on Raw, and then later in the week on SmackDown. I think it was the first week of the new year. It was the first Raw of the new year, and then the first SmackDown in USA later on that week. And both matches were really, really good, and go figure, they had a storyline. So I cared about who won. I cared about the match. I care about both wrestlers, because they've been giving us a reason to care about both women, which is great. Easily the best feud that we've had in years. Again, it's not saying much, because a lot of the women's feuds that we've had in recent years, even Paige and AJ Lee in 2014 had potential, but it was way too much, blurring of the lines and shades of gray and all this other crap, like all this lesbian shit. Like, it didn't work. It was bad. It didn't make any sense. You didn't really care about one woman over the other. The matches weren't even what they could have been anyway. They weren't given the time. Charlotte and Becky have been given the time to showcase their skills. And again, go figure, they've blown everyone out of the water with their matches, feuds, promos. Becky's promo last week was amazing on Raw. So again, I'm taping this before Raw. After Raw, this is going up. Maybe it was already confirmed, a Divas title match of the Rumble. It's got to be just one-on-one. You can throw a little stip in there if you want to, but the Battle Royal, if you got a one-on-one feud, why would you do a Battle Royal? It'd become obvious that Becky's winning anyway, so it really wouldn't make any sense. And we don't have enough women's wrestlers in the division right now anyway to even have a Battle Royal. Paige is out with a concussion reportedly. Sasha Banks is reportedly still injured. I have no idea where the hell Natalya is. And then Alicia Fox and Brie Bella, who else? Who cares? So you'd have like a 4-woman battle royal at that point. And again, on that note, it's really amazing to me that they've really pulled off this great feud between Charlotte and Becky Lynch without really having a multitude of women to work with. They've had they've really centered this feud around two women, which is what it should have been the entire time, dating back to the beginning of the Divas Revolution over the summer. But they've really only had a couple women to work with here, and they've just, again, really exceeded my expectations with the matches, promos, everything. These segments have been really, really good. So I'm looking forward to the inevitable title match between these two. I'm hoping it leads to Becky winning the belt, but even if it doesn't, maybe it leads to Sasha winning the belt, and hopefully Becky continues to be involved in the title picture going into WrestleMania, and you do a triple threat with her, Banks, and Charlotte. Banks and Charlotte would be great, a great one-on-one match for the card, but after what we've seen from Becky in the last couple months, I feel like she does deserve to be in that the Divas title picture, for months to come, because she is that good, and she's finally proving that. She's always been good, but she's finally being given the opportunity to prove herself as a worthy contender and hopefully a future champion. Next question from Mark. Looks like for the tag team titles, it could be the Usos against the New Day. Reckon a triple threat match between the Usos, New Day, and the Social Outcasts would have been really exciting. Which match would you have preferred seeing? The Social Outcasts really haven't done anything to justify getting a title shot. I know this is WWE, and they give people title shots for the hell of it, so that's not really an excuse. I understand that. I mean, that would be cool. You know what? Second thought, I would take that match. I would definitely take that match over Usos New Day, just because it's something new, and it's something, it would be. I'm not saying it would be as great as either the triple threat match between the Dragons, Usos, and New Day last month at TLC was amazing. I don't think it's going to come close to even, matching that, but again, it's something new. We've seen Usos and New Day how many times in the last couple of months? I'm waiting for something new, and throwing the Social Outcasts in there. I know they're not going to win. Everyone knows they're not going to win, but it's another interesting dynamic to the match. It makes the match itself, from an in-ring standpoint, even better, because you have more bodies to work with, and I know more people can sometimes, there's a bigger chance, a bigger margin for error, so to speak, and it can become a massive train wreck. But that wasn't the case at TLC when you put, how many guys? 6, 7 if you include Xavier Woods at TLC. And it was a great triple threat tag team ladder match. And this won't have to involve ladders, but it can be a great match for the tag team titles. And again, it's better than doing the same old match again between Usos and New Day, which could be a very good match, don't get me wrong, and I'm still excited for it anyway. But if you put another team in there, like the Dragons, I know Sin Cara is still hurt, so maybe not, or the Social Outcasts, as you said, would be something new. It would be fresh. It'd be exciting. And the Social Outcasts, all 4 guys are really good workers, and they're not really on like a roll, so to speak, right now, but they just arrived on the scene 2 weeks ago, and I'm already more interested in them, more so than half the roster. So that's saying something. That's certainly a step in the right direction. And his final question here: who do you think was the male breakout star of NXT in 2015? Who is still in NXT, and who do you think will have a successful 2016? Or rather, let me reread that. I botched that question completely. I apologize, Mark. His question was, who do you think was the male breakout star of NXT in 2015 who is still in NXT, and do you think they will have a successful 2016? Okay. Cheap plug here before I give out my answer. RJ, at RJ_Marceau, put up a new column, RJ's 2 cents, on nextairwrestling.net, my website, last week, listing his, I think it was top 5 breakout wrestlers of 2015, with the hottest momentum coming into 2016. It's a great article. Be sure to check it out. It went up on the website late last week, about Thursday, Friday, so check it out on the website. But anyway, male breakout star of NXT, I'm not going to say like Finn Balor, because he was already there, and you already kind of knew he was great. Breakout star, I'd go with Corbin, just because he improved a lot, both as a character and as a wrestler in 2015 alone. I feel like Breaking Ground had a lot to do with that. That kind of opened up a lot of new eyes, and it's a really, really good show. He was actually one of my favorites on the show. I thought getting another side to Corbin really made me look at him in a different light, and he's not really a people person. It's hilarious. He's very Brock Lesnar-esque in that he hates people, but for the right reasons. Like, he doesn't like to be bothered, and that's very commendable. I certainly see parts of myself in Baron Corbin, so it's funny. But even as a character, I mean, the guy has really come into his own as a character. Because before, if you asked me maybe 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I don't really care about Baron Corbin. When he first came on the scene, he was new, he was fresh, 15-second squash matches, wow, that's awesome. But that shit gets old after a while in, this day and age. And thankfully, they finally started to give him personality. I thought the video package they gave him right before NXT TakeOver Brooklyn was great. He's like, oh, these people want their internet darlings. I'm not an internet darling. I don't care. I called them, I make a paycheck, that's why I'm here. That shit was great. It was a great promo. It made me boo the shit out of him when he came out for his match. I feel like he's really come a long way, and coming into 2016, he's in the NXT Championship picture. He's going to potentially get a shot if he can win the triple threat between Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe right before TakeOver Dallas or whatever. And that match is taking place on NXT in 3 weeks, or 2 weeks at this point. And it's going to be taking place over Rumble weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it has to be Baron Corbin. Those guys' matches have been very, very good. The matches with Apollo Crews and Samoa Joe, and even the matches in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic were all those matches were very, very good. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for him seeing what's in store for him in 2016, both in NXT and even maybe WWE. At Justin_J Hill, his question was, now we're moving to the Twitter questions now. Do you see Randy Orton being at the Royal Rumble or even at WrestleMania since he does not need neck surgery? Definitely not at the Rumble. That's way too soon. I know he does not need neck surgery, as he said himself on his Twitter, which is great news. They might rush him back for Mania. I feel like they won't. If anything, we could see him the night after WrestleMania. A lot like Batista. I feel like he was medically cleared, like maybe midway through March, but by that point they're like, shit, we're not going to bring him back now. So they just brought him back the night after WrestleMania 25. They could do something very similar to that this year, the night after WrestleMania 32. I'd be all in favor for that. I don't think he's going to be back before WrestleMania. If I had to take a guess, probably not. There's a chance. The report I said he could be back anywhere from mid-March to May, which is obviously a month removed from WrestleMania. So maybe not. There's a chance. I'm not banking on it, though. I would not get my hopes up for an Orton appearance, or an Orton match, rather, at WrestleMania, just because they might be pushing it a little bit too quickly. At the Wrestle Guys got a pretty loaded question here, but a very good question at that. From Twitter. His question was, it's clear that WWE wants to use Finn Balor as the face of NXT, especially now that NXT is starting to go to different areas around the world. This is, of course, a smart move because he's one of those guys who makes NXT so successful, but do you worry that this hurts his chances of coming to the main roster anytime soon? Balor is as ready as can be to be one of the main players on the roster, but with NXT growing even more, making WWE a huge profit and bringing in more subscribers to the network, do you feel WWE will keep him down in NXT for as long as they can because they're afraid of him being gone from NXT can hurt its success? That's a great question. But I would have said the same thing about maybe a guy like, and they're not exactly on Balor's level, or at least they weren't when they were a champion, but Owens, let's consider here for a second, they only brought in Owens, Balor, and Itami when they did in mid to late 2014 to add to the momentum of NXT, which is apparently why they brought in Joe last year, which is great. I'm happy Joe's in WWE. He deserves to be in the main roster. I feel like he's one of the hottest things going right now in pro wrestling. The guy's pretty much rejuvenated his career. He's so fun to watch for the first time in many, many, many years. But going back to Balor, NXT is what they're selling tickets for. Balor, like you said, is the face of NXT, but it's been this way for a long time, and it will continue to always be this way. That, WWE's in town. You're not saying, John Cena's in town. Maybe John Cena might be the exception. But other than maybe Cena, you're not saying, I'm going to the wrestling show tonight because Randy Orton's going to be there. I'm going to the show tonight because, whoever. Maybe Cena and Lesnar are the exceptions. But, thanking people for the house and stuff like that, as the old slogan went, or as the old phrase went back in wrestling, back in the day when Hogan was headlining events, thanks, brother, for the house, because he was pretty much selling the arenas out himself because he was such a big name back then. And maybe Austin and the Attitude Era, but since then we really have not had that big of a name where people are just going to the shows for that one person, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. You could say, they're not building new stars, which is true to an extent, but it's also smart from a business standpoint to build around the brand. What if Hogan got hurt? What if he was out for 2 years? What if he left like Brock Lesnar split, to quote CM Punk, in the late 80s instead of leaving in the 90s. You gotta build around the brand itself and not just one guy. If that guy goes down with an injury, they're screwed. What are you gonna do? People aren't gonna go to the shows because Hogan's hurt. He's gonna be hurt for the next 2 to 3 years. It worked back then, but you can't function as a business that way, nowadays. Because people get hurt all the time, especially now more than ever. You can't build a company around one guy. If that guy goes down like Cena did, and Cena was, granted, he really is still the face of the company even in 2016, But, if that guy goes down, and thankfully they have guys like Owens and Ambrose, and they've finally been building up Roman Reigns, they're probably going to be Roman Reigns, that people have said, and, tie him up in pillows and whatnot at the live events to ensure he doesn't get hurt before WrestleMania. But with Balor, though, I think it's kind of the same concept in that he is not the only guy that's selling out these selling out these sold out shows in Chicago and Milwaukee and Albany and Philadelphia. It's the NXT brand itself. NXT is the hottest thing going in wrestling today. I don't really think there was much of a doubt behind that, other than maybe Lucha Underground, which is coming back next Wednesday. Damn it. I'm still looking forward to that. Other than Lucha Underground, I feel like NXT is the hottest commodity in wrestling right now. People are going to go to these shows because it's NXT, not just because Sami Zayn is headlining for the title, or Balor or Owens or Enzo Amore or whoever. It's the NXT brand. So I see what you're saying. They want to keep Balor down there because he's the face of NXT, but I thought the same thing about maybe Owens, and he got called up far sooner than I ever expected him to, and good for him too, because he's been doing very well on the main roster. So Balor will be on the main roster eventually. I can promise you that, just because even Vince is buying into the idea that they could sell super merch with this guy, shitloads of merch, and just bring in new fans from across the world because he's a universal character, and just seeing that entrance on WrestleMania alone is worth bringing him up to WrestleMania. Is worth bringing him up to the main roster at some point. 2016, I said last year, my bold prediction for the next year was that Balor would get called up the night after WrestleMania. And I still feel that way. And they might keep him down in that show even longer. Zayn's been down in NXT for years, but Balor is a different kind of character. He has so much buzz around him. They can make so much money off of him. Balor, for as big of a star he is in NXT and all the merch that he's selling and whatnot, they make significantly more money on Raw and SmackDown as part of the main roster. I know, being down in NXT is so much fun. Like you said, he's really no rush to get to Raw, which I understand. I get that, but there's part of him that wants to be in WWE, not to only fulfill a childhood dream of getting to Raw and SmackDown and WrestleMania ultimately, but the pay cut, or the pay raise rather, is huge from developmental to the main roster. I'm sure they've been getting more money as NXT gets hotter, but by and large, from what I've heard, the pay raise is not that much bigger. I mean, for like TakeOver Brooklyn, the money they've been getting off these shows is not that much higher. They're having fun, which is amazing, but the money they're making to have themselves a good living, to have themselves, a prosperous lifestyle, is huge on the main roster compared to NXT. There's a huge difference. So, part of him really wants to get to the big leagues at some point. I consider NXT the big leagues, but you know what I mean. From a financial standpoint, the main roster is where everyone in wrestling wants to be for that, for that huge money alone. Having fun is awesome. Having fun in wrestling is great. That's what should be the number one priority. But bottom line is that Balor is a money player. It's going to take a real effort to screw him up. I've said that for years now. I've said that since he debuted. But this guy is such a special case. They would have to intentionally try to mess up his potential and what he's capable of accomplishing in this business. Just because he has star written all over him, and he can be a big money player for WWE. If they just let him be him, they don't even have to play their cards right. Like with Tyler Breeze, they had to handle his character very carefully, and they didn't. He's a jobber now. Balor, he's going to get over no matter what. Again, they're going to have to give him, clown shoes and a red nose in order for him to not to get over, or to become a joke, or for him to flop, or whatever. Start having him speak Dutch or, whatever, for him not to get over and for him to be a failure. Because otherwise, he's going to get that ball, he's going to take that ball and just freaking run with it. Next question from @Thomas _B96. Do you see a Rock Roman Reigns tag team at some point, like Survivor Series? Maybe. I mean, it'd be cool. I don't know. I guess it would be two shades of 2011 when they did it with Rock and Cena and then did a match at WrestleMania the following year. But I've said for a while now, a Rock Roman Reigns match would be cool. I don't know if they would do it just because people would obviously side with Rock in that scenario, and Roman Reigns is still kind of trying to find his stride as a main event performer on his own. But maybe by next year, that's not an issue. We'll have to wait and see. It's not happening this year, I can tell you that much. But a Rock Reigns, I'd rather see Rock and Reigns just straight up one-on-one than a tag team. But if we had a Rock and Roman Reigns tag team against maybe Triple H and somebody else, that would be a cool match. That'd be a pretty cool match. But a Rock Roman Reigns tag team, I think Rock kind of already did his due with Survivor Series in 2011. I don't think he's coming back to that pay-per-view anymore. He might, who knows? Especially now that the pay-per-view doesn't really have as much meaning as it once did. So, I wouldn't count on it, but there's always a chance, I guess. It'd be cool to see, I'll say that much. At 5SOSJMOS, his question, or her question was, rather, your thoughts on AJ Styles finally getting his well-deserved spot on the main roster of WWE. Again, nothing's official. I don't want to jump the gun. 95% certain, as most people are, that it looks like AJ Styles is WWE bound. What are my thoughts on it? Absolutely ecstatic. I mean, like I said before in past video blogs, Facebook, Twitter, right here on #AskGSM, AJ Styles has been one of my favorites since I started watching TNA back in 2008, and I was super bummed that he left in 2014, 2013, but he has been kicking all sorts of ass over in New Japan for the last couple of years, and I've been following his work over there. It was because of AJ Styles I really kind of started to watch NXT, or rather, not NXT, hopefully at some point, but Ring of Honor. If it wasn't for Styles, I probably would have picked up on it at some point, but to me, he was really the drawing, the real one guy who made a difference in me wanting to watch Ring of Honor regularly, like on a regular basis. And now that he's gone, I'm already kind of far into my Ring of Honor run that I'll be sticking with ROH, even though he's not there anymore. But he was really, he was a big factor in making me watch Ring of Honor. TNA, for as bad as it was in its final few years when he was there, he was one of my favorite guys. He was my favorite guy on the roster. Even the New Japan show, I watched Wrestle Kingdom 10 or 9 rather last year. I haven't seen this year's yet. I know he was on the show. I just never really had the time to watch it. The Wrestle Kingdom 9 show when he faced who was it? Ibushi or something like that. It was a great freaking match, and I love that show. And part of the reason why I watched it was because of AJ Styles, and I knew he was wrestling on the card. But anyway, I'm a huge AJ Styles fan. I'll be going through at least 5 windows when he debuts. And he's not coming out to Get Ready to Fly, but just I get goosebumps thinking about the idea of AJ Styles in WWE. To me, he is like my Sting. Like, I always wanted to see Sting in WWE anyway. And I know Sting was always like, oh, the guy, the greatest wrestler to never wrestle for WWE. Styles is that guy for me. I know he wrestled there for like a cup of coffee in like '01 on Jacked or some shit like that, but I'm talking about a full-time main roster guy under contract to WWE, not as a jobber or an enhancement talent or a local athlete or any of that crap. I'm talking main roster or developmental or whatever. And to me, he was that guy, that the greatest wrestler in the world today to have never wrestled for WWE. There's a lot of Japanese guys out there too who are amazing, who are among the best wrestlers to never wrestle for WWE that I would love to see over there. Jay Lethal as well, but Styles, like Lethal's here, Styles isn't like even in the frame. That's how great he is in my opinion, in terms of like people I've desperately wanted to see in that company for years. And like I said last week, is there a chance they could mishandle his character and kind of screw up his, push or whatever? Absolutely, there's going to be that fear with everybody, but Styles, I feel, is such a special case. He's such a great wrestler. His mic skills are a little but if you keep him quiet, keep him short and sweet, his promos that is, he could be a real money player in WWE, especially if he is, coming in at a time when all these other people are out hurt. John Cena, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, or Randy Orton. If he comes into the Rumble, as he should, despite it being spoiled or ruined or leaked or whatever the hell people are claiming it is, if he comes in when we all think he will, on Sunday at the Rumble, not only will I die of markoutitis, but for Styles, it's a real huge opportunity to become one of the top tier players in WWE. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Probably not, just because he was in TNA for so long. Honestly, that's just my honest perception of it, just because he was a TNA guy and helped build that brand. And TNA is no competition for WWE, but just because he was over there and he wasn't over here, I really don't know. I honestly could not tell you. There's just the whole, I don't even really want to get into it. It's just kind of a whole thought process that I have that, there's a lot of TNA guys in the last year that have, succeeded in WWE, but by and large, if you're a TNA guy, like a Vance Archer, Awesome Khan just kind of fizzled out, beyond things that were beyond her control and WWE's control. But Vance Archer, Braden Walker, all these other guys. R-Truth and Christian don't count because they were in WWE before they went to TNA. I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm talking about AJ Styles. I don't think he's going to come in and face The Undertaker WrestleMania. He could. Who knows? I would die of myocarditis. Again, I would die of myocarditis. But again, if there's any chance for him to become a main event player in WWE, it would be right now with so many top guys out. This is his time to shine. This is his time to fly. Get ready to fly. Again, guys, if he debuts on Sunday, I'll be jumping through at least 10 windows all across the nation. Oh, the Raw theme, great song by the way. Second question of hers. Also, do you believe that the Hardy Boys will be returning to become returning? I think you meant will be returning at WrestleMania to face the Dudley Boys one last time. Again, not banking on it. They're not going to be in the Rumble because they'll be a part of the UK tour, which happens at the end of the month, like after the Rumble. So they're not going to be in the Rumble itself or be back in WWE by that point. Jeff, I've always said it's only a matter of when and not if he goes back to WWE, excuse me. I feel like he's always been like, even dating back to his final appearance 7 years ago, he said, this is only goodbye for now and not forever or something along those lines. And I feel like he truly meant that even despite where his life took him, both professionally and personally in TNA and him staying there for a lot longer than anyone really ever expected, or at least me anyway. He's always been a guy that I felt like, I don't care how long he's with TNA, he's going to be back in WWE eventually. Like a couple years ago, I think in 2014 or maybe the year before, he said, oh yeah, I'll be back there even if it takes me 13 years, even if it's 15 years from now. I'm thinking, I don't think it's going to be 15 years, Steph. I'm thinking more along the lines of like 15 months maybe or something like that, just because TNA, they could try to re-sign him. They can offer him a big money contract. I know that's why James Storm stuck with TNA because the money was a lot better there than it was in WWE for him, because they probably gave him a developmental deal in NXT. That's probably why. And TNA was going to pay him like one of their top people. And if there's any one thing that TNA has going for them right now, it's money. Being backed by Panda Energy and whatever. The Carter family is freaking loaded. So I feel like they won't return this year just because I feel like TNA is going to try to re-sign them to become the faces of their program now that they're on Pop TV. I can certainly see that, but in a dream scenario, yes, I hope they're back in time for Mania to face the Dudley Boys one last time. And the matches they can have with, the Usos, New Day, the Lucha Dragons, like you said, the Dudley Boys would be great. And Jeff eventually can go off back on his own as a singles performer and kind of, get that run that he never really truly had on top. He was on top for a while in 08 and 09, but it was never really a sustained push, He was on top for his feuds with Edge and Triple H and CM Punk, but it never really fully surfaced out because he had to leave in 09, or, he made the choice to leave. He didn't have to leave, but he made the choice to leave. So that kind of halted his momentum. But I feel like he will be a singles performer at some point just because he's so freaking over, and he still would be over if he came back to WWE at any point in the near future. Or any point in the future, period, I feel like he's going to be over just because he's so great with kids in terms of connecting with those characters, and people like my age, early 20s, the male fans are going to cheer the hell out of him just because he's so awesome, and he's a daredevil, he's the charismatic enigma. You don't really know much about him, but he's got a great moveset, and he's a sympathetic character. Like, everybody loves Jeff Hardy. So he's going to be over no matter what, either as a tag team guy or a singles guy. I don't think he's going to be back before WrestleMania, but he will be back definitely at some point. At Swagzio, first question of theirs was, who do you think will be number 1, 2, and, I don't know why I did 4 fingers there, 1, 2, and 30 in the Royal Rumble match? Now, again, these are questions that will probably be answered tonight on Raw as you watch this. This is going up after Raw, so you know better than I would. To make bold predictions, so this question might be irrelevant by the time you watch this, but I'm thinking 1 or 2 has to be Roman Reigns. If he does not come in an early number, having him do the whole 1 versus all, defend the title in the Rumble match makes absolutely no sense. And if they hate Roman Reigns that much, they would have him enter at 1, 2, or 3. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense. And it's usually on this Raw that we find out someone enters at number 1. So, yeah, I'm thinking Roman Reigns enters at 1 or 2. You know what would be awesome? If we had Reigns come out at one of those 2 numbers and Ambrose came out of the other. That would be freaking cool. And both guys go the distance. They last until the very end. Maybe not Reigns and Ambrose are the final two, but Ambrose can last until the final four, final five, whatever. That would be cool if the Authority wanted to put the two guys against each other, put friends against each other going into WrestleMania, and it's every man for themselves. That would be pretty awesome. So I'm going to say Roman Reigns is number 1, Ambrose is 2. Reigns coming out at number 1, people are like, okay, let's ready this. Who's he going to face? And then Ambrose comes out like, oh shit, it's about to get interesting. It's better than Miz and Truth from last year, which was random as all hell. But anyway, number 30, I'm thinking AJ Styles. I'm thinking like save the surprise for last. It's not cliche. They've only done it once with Cena in 2008. But Styles would be great. But I'm thinking realistically, Brock Lesnar would be a huge possibility to enter into number 30. I think he came in at number 30 a couple years ago, right? The only Rumble that he was in 03, I feel like, or maybe one of the last numbers. I don't remember exactly, but he would be a great number. He would be a great number 30 just because he can come in and just demolish everybody. Either him or Triple H, which I don't want to see. I just feel like that's way too predictable to have him come in and then win the Rumble, win the belt, whatever. Someone else asked a question about that, and I'll get to it, but in terms of number 30, I feel like Triple H would be way too obvious. Triple H, having his music hit at number 30, would be like, oh, we all saw this coming, whatever. And then he comes out in a suit. And I've said this before, but he comes out in a suit and it's like, wait, I thought he was wrestling. And then he goes, and this is complete fantasy booking I know, but he goes, are you ready? And like goes, what is he talking about? He's not, is he going to get in the ring in his suit? Or what's going on here? And he goes, are you ready to fly? Get ready to fly. Say couldn't. The place goes freaking berserk. Out comes AJ Styles as the new Authority appointed number 1 man. I just like the idea of him saying, are you ready? Are you ready to fly? And I'm sure like 90% of the fans wouldn't even get the reference. And his theme wouldn't be get ready to fly anyway. But I don't know. WWE, as RG has said before, they have so much money. I'm sure they can find a rip-off theme, a song that's a rip-off of Get Ready to Fly. I know it was produced by Dale Oliver, TNA's lead, he's like their version of Jim Johnson, their lead music producer. They could find a knockoff, I'm sure, as they have for Sting and Goldberg and guys like that. But anyway, I'm gonna go with Lesnar. I don't think that's gonna happen with Triple H and Styles. Lesnar as number 30. And as number 1 and 2, Reigns and Ambrose, respectively. His second question, who should induct Sting into the Hall of Fame? I'm thinking Ric Flair. Just go with the obvious. Warrior would have been great had he not passed away, sadly. Lex Luger, I know, did the honors in TNA, which wouldn't be bad. It'd be cool to see Lex Luger back in WWE. We haven't seen him in WWE for many years, probably since he left in 95. I know he's been on Docs and on the network and shit, but he hasn't been on TV, I think, since he left in 95. Which is incredible, over 20 years, and he has yet to come back to the company. I know, Vince holds grudges. People that left for WCW, they never came back, like the Bulldog and Rick Rude and Lex Luger, never came back to WWE, and they have yet to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I think there's something to that, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate to be like the conspiracy theorist, but I certainly think there's something to that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been inducted by now, in my opinion, anyway. So anyway, Sting, just go with Ric Flair. He was his most iconic opponent. He put Sting on the map in their series of matches in the late 80s or early 90s, whenever it was. I'm pretty sure it was late 80s, mid 80s. I don't know. Just go with Sting, or rather with Ric Flair. He seems like the most obvious candidate. He's the best candidate. Luger would be fine. No one else comes to mind. They're not bringing back Hogan. And why would they? Sting and Hogan had a history in WCW, but they were, great rivals. And, I guess Sting and Flair were too, but, Hogan would just be the same guy who refused to do the job for Sting in WWE. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's kind of the same thing as having Hogan do the induction for Savage last year. That was kind of, I would have chosen Steamboat over Hogan. Or Linda McMahon for Warrior in 2014 would at least made a little bit more sense. I know it was completely random, but she had a personal connection to him, to the Warrior. And Hogan and Savage were bitter enemies towards the end, so it didn't really make much sense. But anyway, yeah, I would just go with Ric Flair for Sting's induction into the Hall of Fame this year. At the Average Grunt, with March to WrestleMania in Toronto, fuck yes, he says, being the last show before WrestleMania, what kind of matches do you think we'll get? Probably your basic house show lineup. I know it's closer to WrestleMania. You said you were the last show before WrestleMania. I know it's in mid-March, so it's not the last show before WrestleMania. And it's not going to be like a pay-per-view if that's what you're saying. And it's going to be like a lot like, the MSG special or Beast in the East, where they're going to have Lesnar be on the show. I think he's been confirmed to appear, which is cool. They might have like a one-off IC title match. I don't think they're going to do anything huge. I know they might because it's right before Mania, not like a huge title change or a WWE title match. That'd be a little bit... I'd be surprised if they did anything big right before Mania. They're going to save it for Mania, if anything. But I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, you're pumped to have WWE, a live show, back in Toronto, and I'm happy for you. Canada is always a great crowd. I'm always happy when they get Raw and SmackDowns and stuff, because Canada have some of the best wrestling fans in the world, and they're always energetic, a lot like the energetic. I always mess up that word, but you know what I mean. Enthusiastic, loud, rowdy. They're always great. And we have not had a pay-per-view in Canada since Breaking Point over 6 years ago. This is not a pay-per-view. This is a network special. There is still technically a difference if WWE still puts their pay-per-views out on pay-per-view anymore. Yeah, it's a great get. It's a great get for WWE. I love when they put these kind of specials on the network. They don't do it every single week. They don't televise every single house show. They do it every once in a while, every couple months. And it's a great get for the network. It's a great get for the fans in Toronto. And it's a great get for the fans of the network. People who will be watching on the network and watching this special and watching what should hopefully be a very fun night of wrestling. And next question comes from Brad Brodar from Twitter. It's got a couple questions here. First one being, why has NXT done nothing with Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Liv Morgan? Well, first and foremost, I liked that they gave them mic time last week before the Battle Royal to determine the number one contender to the NXT Women's Championship. That was pretty cool. They're still coming along. I mean, they're not like putting them in like top tier programs or anything right now. They're not feeding with Asuka like even Ray seems to be. They're not established yet. I feel like they're still kind of feeling them out, and I know that kind of sounded weird, but it's trying to establish them and experimenting with these women, with Royce, Kay, and Morgan. I've seen more of Kay and Royce because they've been here longer. Liv Morgan, the former, what was her name? I forgot. The New Jersey girl, but she's been here for a while too, or Gianna or whatever her name was. She's been here for a while too, just not in NXT TV. Royce and Kay seem to be finally getting characters. Like before, they were just plain old enhancement talent. In the promos they cut last week in NXT, it seems like Royce is like not a rosebud. That's a poor choice of words considering Adam Rose is a rosebud. She's like a blooming flower or something like that, and Billie Kay is like this sexual character. So at least they finally have characters, and then Liv Morgan is just seemingly herself, just from New Jersey, a New Jersey native with the accent. So that's pretty cool. But hopefully in time we start to see more of them, both on the mic and in the ring, and they've been getting entrances for like the last month or so, which is cool. But again, hopefully when like Bayley gets called up and Carmella goes up with Enzo and Cass at some point, they start to focus on those women like Royce, Kay, and Morgan, and they start to get more TV time, and they start to get more character development, which will therefore make me care more about their characters and whatnot. In years to come, do you think Jason Jordan can become a main eventer? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think so. I feel like Chad Gable can be like our, this generation's Kurt Angle just because of his small size. I feel like it's such a bullshit excuse because the guy can be great no matter what. Jason Jordan, though, does have the size to be a main eventer in WWE. I just feel like the overall package is Chad Gable. Jordan's come a long way. Like, he's really grown on me. I mean, especially in the tag team with Chad Gable. But I don't look at him and say, oh, you know what, future WWE champion. I feel like the next African-American world champion will be Apollo Crews without a doubt. Jordan is a great tag team guy. He could be a good Shelton Benjamin-like character in the mid-card. I don't know about world champion. I would put the belt on Gable before Jordan. And again, I don't feel like they're going to do that just because of his small size, which again is crap. But regardless, could Jordan be a main eventer? Anything's possible just because he's a big guy. He's got the look. But if I would put the title on either one of them, if I had to choose between Gable and Jordan, Gable any day of the week, because I feel like he has great mic skills and ring skills. He's got a good look, and he can be a viable WWE champion despite his small size. Brad's next question was, would you be willing to take the Social Outcasts seriously as a mid-card group? I don't know about a mid-card group, maybe, but I feel like they're great just where they are right now as like a group of jobbers, like a Job Squad 2.0. I am infinitely more entertained by the Social Outcasts than I was by 3MB, which I thought was just bad. I know that was the point to elicit heat, but I just thought it was a total waste of a guy like Drew McIntyre, who had really no business being in that group. Heath Slater was fun, but Jinder Mahal was boring as crap. Like, even in that group, I thought he was boring as shit. At least with the Social Outcasts, they're right where they need to be. They're never going to get above a certain level. I think we've already established that with all four guys, Dallas, Axel, Rose, and Slater. But they can be, they can be a good group. I'm already entertained by them only 2 weeks in. I don't know about a mid-card group because we have so many goddamn factions right now with the League of Nations, the Wyatt family, maybe the Balor couple at some point, the Authority, the Social Outcasts, the Cosmic Wasteland. So many stables in WWE. Probably more now than ever before, at least in the last couple decades. Probably since the Attitude Era, if I had to be specific. But they could be a good group. They could have good matches. All four guys are pretty good workers, and I think the gimmick itself has some life ahead of it if they could book it properly, not just as losers, but they could be entertaining. They are entertaining. If they just give them the ball to run with it, I feel like they can make the most of the opportunity. What's your favorite Kofi Kingston Royal Rumble moment? They're all good. If I had to pick, I thought the ones in 2012 and the 2013 were probably my favorite. The one in 2012 was the handstand one where Miz, threw Kofi's feet off the apron and Kofi did a handstand back into the ring, which was amazing. Even in, not in person, but when I was watching it live, was just hilarious and was so great. And for a Rumble match I didn't give two shits about in 2012, I thought that was a great moment. The 2013 one I thought was clever. I think people thought that he was going to jump from the commentary table back to the ring apron, which did not happen. He did that the following year in 2014. Even the one he did in 2015 when he jumped and he fell on the Rosebuds and they carried him back in the ring, but they didn't carry Adam Rose back in the ring. They just weren't there for him when he got eliminated. I even thought that was cool. It was kind of tame compared to previous series, but it was still a cool moment. But in 2012, I'd probably go with that one. The 2013 one I thought was pretty cool when he jumped on the back of Tensai and he took the announcer chair and he hopped from one side back into the ring. So I thought that was great. But I think the handstand probably takes the cake for being my favorite. I thought that was just so unprecedented. If I really had to pick a favorite Rumble, like avoiding elimination moment, honestly, I'd go with John Morrison. 2011, I think his one spot in the Rumble that year blew all of Kofi's out of the water. Kofi's were pretty good to great, but I thought Morrison's was the best in 2011 when he did his parkour shit. And he jumped from, I think Regal eliminated him with an elbow. And Morrison jumped from the ring apron to the guardrail or the barricade or whatever. And he hung on like a spider. Then he jumped on the barricade, jumped from the barricade to the steel steps and got back into the ring. It was pretty goddamn cool. That was probably my favorite, but you said Kofi Kingston, so I'll go with the one from 2012, the handstand, the following year. If AJ Lee returned and had a long-term feud with Sasha Banks, who would you like to see be the heel? That's a really good question. When you sent in this question and I looked at it, I'm thinking, oh crap. Oh wow. I'm thinking this is going to be a lot easier to answer than it probably will be, but it's not. It's a very good question. Of the two, because Sasha works a lot better as a heel, as does AJ. You said if AJ came back, not if she was still here. So probably I would have Sasha be the heel, just because I feel like if AJ came back, she'd be just automatically cheered. So I'd probably have her be the babyface and say oh, in my absence, you've risen up. And I don't think AJ's coming back anyway, but if she did, theoretically, at some point in the next couple months, and Banks was the top heel or the champion or whatever, Banks is organically getting over as a babyface, but I feel like her mannerisms work better as a heel. And then AJ Lee, she's a weird babyface, but she gets over as a babyface. Because the heel, she has some great mannerisms too. She's a total bitch at times when she's a heel. But if it was done at any point in the next couple months, fantasy booking here, I'd probably have Sasha be the heel, and then have AJ, be the babyface, and Sasha can be oh, when you were gone, I captured the belt. You just walked out and retired, and in your absence, I rose up and won the belt. Blah 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 blah. It'd be a great feud. Just have her say that. She's automatically a heel, and AJ could be the babyface. So that'd be a feud I would love to see. Probably never going to happen. I do not see AJ coming back, or at least as a wrestler. Maybe he's for the Hall of Fame down the line or something. But it would be a great feud nevertheless, regardless of what the roles were. Even if it was the other way around with AJ as the heel and Sasha as the babyface, it'd still be awesome anyway. Would you mark out if Jeff Hardy was a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble? Absolutely. Like I said, I would jump through 5 windows for AJ Styles debuting. I would jump through maybe 4.5 for Jeff Hardy, just because, or maybe 5. We'll make it even, just because it would be so great. I said to John the other day, what if we were all expecting AJ and then in number 30, Jeff came out instead? And what a swerve that would be, especially now that we know that he's working the UK tour. I don't know how he would pull that off. He left TNA before he had to work the UK tour. And John brought up a good point. He doesn't go over to the UK anyway. You know, he can't go over to the UK, or at least I think he can. He hasn't been overseas for TNA in maybe 5 years, in a long time. So there's a chance. I don't know when his contract expires. I heard it was this month. I know he re-signed in this month last year, so I don't know how likely it is. But, dude, I would go crazy if he debuted back in the Rumble. Like I said earlier, he will be back in WWE at some point. It's not going to be in the Rumble, him, Matt, or Kurt Angle, just because Angle's taking time off anyway, apparently for like a year before deciding his next move, whether to go back to TNA or to finish off his career in WWE if they offer him a right contract. Who knows? The right deal. That sweet, sweet part-time deal. Who knows? But they will be back in WWE at some point. I really don't think there's much doubt about that. At Reborn Again's got 2 questions this week. First one being, after a couple of weeks of Impact on Pop, great segue, what are your thoughts on the direction of the company? You know, I think the premiere was good. I didn't think it was amazing. I thought it was a good show. There doesn't really feel like there's much buzz around the company right now, or at least not any positive buzz. The only buzz they've had in the past year was like, oh, they're being canceled again. That was the only time I saw people like universally talking about TNA on my timeline. Most Tuesday nights now, like the last 2 Tuesday nights with Impact on Pop, I saw maybe a couple people tweeting about it. People just do not care anymore. They just gave up. I know a lot of people I know gave up. I know John started watching again. RJ tuned in and saw a couple minutes of it, so that's cool. The product isn't bad. It's just there's just nothing going right now. You know, the whole Hardy and EC3 thing going up on Wednesday should be interesting. I don't know what's happening there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening. I don't want to know what's happening until it airs on Wednesday, but the whole Impact or the whole title versus career thing should be cool. But other than that, I mean, the beer money thing is great, but other than that, what else is there really to get excited about? The Dollhouse versus the Beautiful People? Whoop-de-doo. You know, there's not much stuff going on in TNA right now that I feel like I can really get invested in. There's not a lot going on. There's just people there. It's just a wrestling federation. That's basically it, with a TV deal. They got a decent direction. Again, it's not a bad product. Not even that I don't care. I'll give it a couple more weeks. It's not like I'm going to stop watching. I write reviews of Impact for my website anyway. If I watched when they had the World Title Series for 3 months, and I still watched every week anyway, not live albeit, but the next day, and I'll probably do that when I go back to school, because I don't get Pop TV at school anyway. I only get it at home. And I'll be going back to school on Sunday, so I'll probably be watching it on Thursday now. Or rather Wednesday, the next day after Impact airs. Regardless, it's just there's not a lot of buzz around Impact. It's not a bad product. It's a pretty solid TV product. There's just nothing there, in my opinion. They just have no freaking star power. Once Angle's gone and the Hardys might be leaving too soon after, who do they have? EC3? He's not a household name. He's a great talent, but he's not a star. You know, I hate to say that because he can be a star, but he's not like, oh, I'm going to go to a TNA house show because of EC3. And it's not like with WWE, like, oh, TNA's in town. No one even knows TNA's in town because they don't promote their goddamn shows, you know? EC3 is not a household name. James Storm and Bobby Roode are great talents, but they're not household names. Neither is Mr. Anderson or frickin' Rockstar Spud or Tigre Uno. They're all great talents, don't get me wrong, but they're not big enough stars. After the Hardy Boys and Angle are gone, I don't know who the hell they have, and I shudder to think what will happen to the star power on that roster once they eventually, which I promise you will be sooner rather than later. His second question, could you see a Dudley Boyz versus New Day versus Usos versus Harper and Rowan match, tag team title ladder match, spicing up WrestleMania 32? That would be freaking great. I know we just saw a ladder tag team match at TLC last month, which was one of my favorite matches of 2015, hands down. Easily my top 10, if not top 5. But that'd be great. You know, I said a couple, right when the Dudleys came back and we kind of saw it at TLC, they weren't involved. But I wanted another 3-way TLC match with, shades of WrestleMania 2000, or WrestleMania 17, or SummerSlam 2000. When you have, 3 great teams like the Dudley Boyz, maybe Edge and Christian, and then you have the Usos, or the New Day, or Harper and Rowan, like you said. But those 4 teams would be amazing. You throw Hardy and the Hardy Boys in there, that would be great too. I don't see them coming back in time, like I said earlier. But you throw the first, the biggest 4 most over tag teams they have right now, Dudley's, New Day, Usos, Harper, and Rowan, in one tag team title ladder match at Mania, that would be just catastrophic. I would give the belts to the Dudleys. I've said this before, but they're celebrating 20 years in wrestling at WrestleMania, or at least in the month of April. No better time to give them the belts than at WrestleMania. So I would give them the belts then. And I know it's like, oh, they're not the young guys. Who cares? They've been eating shit. They've been eating losses for months now. I would give them the belts at WrestleMania, the grand stage where it matters most, 20 years after they first debuted in wrestling. Couldn't write a better story than that. Next question from that Golden Eagle, with the O as the 0 and E and the golden as the 3. You know what I mean. Your question was, if WWE had the full roster fit, how do you think the WrestleMania card would look? That's a great question. I have no idea. Cena and Taker, if that's, there's a chance it could still happen if they rush Cena back, which would not be the first time. And they need him for the show. The show could still be good if they play their cards right without Cena. But having Cena is a huge, 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 huge plus. So, I think they will have him back. I think they probably will rush him back. I don't think they will. Maybe I'm saying there's a chance they could rush him back, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying he will be there. I'm saying there's a good chance they could rush him back in time to be there and wrestle a match. He doesn't even have to wrestle on Raw, House Show, SmackDown, whatever, until WrestleMania, if that's what it takes. As long as he's on TV to further a feud between him and Taker, that's all that matters. So that being said, if Taker's, if Cena's out hurt and the match is not happening, that's one match, obviously, that would be happening. A Shield triple threat or Rollins and Triple H, I felt like was the direction they were going in. So I feel like that would have been a top match for WrestleMania. I don't know what the heck you would have done with Randy Orton. Maybe Orton and Wyatt. But other than that, I have no idea what they would have done with those guys. I feel like they probably would have done that in the months of December. Like, they may not have brought in the ECW originals because they were kind of going that direction before Orton got hurt. He seemed like he was feuding with the Wyatt family, so they could have been going with Orton and Bray at some point in the winter. But you could have done that at WrestleMania. I don't know. Sasha, I feel like, will be ready by WrestleMania anyway, so the women aren't really a factor in terms of being affected by the injuries right now. They are being affected, but I mean by WrestleMania, they should be fine. But those are really the only obvious answers. Like, Taker, Sting would be great. Sting, I don't know who else he would have him face if he was healthy. I don't think he's not going to be at WrestleMania. I know he's getting inducted that weekend, so he's probably not wrestling. But who would he even face if he's not facing... if Cena got hurt, they would probably do Taker Sting. And it sucks that Sting got hurt, because now would have been the perfect time to do that match, and they're not going to do it because Sting's hurt too. That sucks. That really, really sucks. But anyway... I guess that's really how much of the WrestleMania card would be affected. I don't know about the other guys. I feel like Cesaro would not have had a mega push to WrestleMania, or Tyson Kidd, or Nikki Bella, or Sin Cara, or anything like that. The main event players like the Ortons and the Rollins. Daniel Bryan probably would have had a match with, I don't know, Daniel Bryan, or rather Dean Ambrose or something like that for the IC title. I couldn't tell you. But we'll see. We'll see. I feel like I said earlier, we could still have a great WrestleMania despite being... low on star power right now. Even, low on the talent pool, I feel like they could really still pull off a great show for WrestleMania 32. Fingers crossed. Next question, at Claudio_M96. Who will beat Finn Balor for the NXT Championship? It's probably going to be one of those 3 men in the triple threat match coming up. If it's not Joe, which they probably should have done in London, so it probably won't be Joe. Zayn would be cool, but again, he's another guy who should be called up to the main roster too. And as soon as Balor loses the belt, he's going up. And he could be called up as champion a lot like Owens was, so that's, still within the realm of possibility. I'd go with Baron Corbin just because he's going to be in NXT for a while anyway. I know he feels like he should be on Raw right now, but of those 3, Joe and Zayn should be promoted before Corbin. And Corbin can have a nice dominant run as NXT champion if he won the belt. So I'll go with Corbin. Other than Corbin, maybe Apollo Crews. They still have unfinished business from September. Or it was October, sorry. It was October when they had that title match right after the Respect special. Yeah, it'd be cool to see him drop the belt to either Cruz or Tommy. That'd be pretty awesome. So a Tommy, Cruz, or Corbin seem like the most likely candidates to become the next NXT champion. At Scarlet One's got a couple of questions here before we finish. Oh, shit, we got a handful of questions here. I want to finish this up. We don't have that much time before Raw starts. As I'm recording this, and I know we're already like an hour and 15 minutes in, so I don't want to waste too much of your guys' time. And I appreciate if you watched the entire video through. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Kind of to rush through the questions here. At Scarlet One, to be blunt, Reigns and Lesnar are the only real 2 possible Royal Rumble winners. Anyone else? Triple H or AJ Styles are delusions. Agree, disagree. Styles, yes, is a delusion. That's a very long shot. Styles is a long shot. Triple H is not a long shot. If anything, I feel like he's one of the more likelier candidates. I could very well see them, I've read reports, that match will be the title match of WrestleMania, Reigns and Triple H, which it should not be, because Reigns is going to win no matter what. They're not going to keep the belt on Triple H because he's not a full-time active guy. That match, I like the idea of the match. It's going to be a very good match. It just doesn't need to be for the title. So I could very well see them having Triple H come out in the Rumble and winning the belt and having him putting Reigns in chase mode again and then winning the belt back at WrestleMania again. So I don't want to see that, but Triple H is a very logical and a strong candidate to win the Rumble on Sunday. Styles, though, I would agree, is a delusion. But even the people that are like the long shots, like the Kevin Owens and the Dean Ambroses and the Jerichos, even the Bray Wyatts, those guys may be delusions, as you say, but there's still factors. Like, there's a chance if it came down to those guys, I'd be like, you know what? There might be a chance they could win. They could throw us a curveball. I know they haven't done that in a lot of years, in many, many years. Maybe probably since 2010 or 2011, even maybe 2012 when they had Sheamus win. Throw us a curveball and have someone unpredictable win. There's absolutely a chance we could have a surprise winner on Sunday. But if it came down to people like last year when it came down to Big Show and Kane and they're not winning, then it just like I don't want to see that. Like when it comes down to Reigns and like I don't know, a Bo Dallas, then who's gonna win, so it's very obvious and it's just kind of stupid at that point. But there's a lot of factors. Maybe not some as strong as others, but there's still a lot of potential candidates that could win the belt on Sunday. That's what makes it so exciting. Their second question, excuse my memory if you already answered this, but what WWE title match from the Royal Rumble is your favorite? WWE title match, not World Heavyweight title match. World title would probably be Edge and Dolph Ziggler from 2011. I thought that was a great match. Taker and what was it? This is a fucking no-brainer. I don't know why it's taking me so long to answer it, but Taker and Mysterio from 2010 was great, but no-brainer, Lesnar, Rollins, and Cena, the best WWE match of 2015. I mean, not including the NXT matches, not including Bayley and Sasha, in my opinion. The best WWE main roster match, Lesnar, Rollins, and Cena. Best match of 2015 for WWE. Has to be my favorite WWE title match in the history of the event. But if that's not obviously, that's a pretty, that's a pretty obvious answer. So if I have any backups, I'd go with, Angle Benoit from 2003 was a great match. So I'd go with that one as one of my second choices for favorite WWE title matches from the Royal Rumble. I'm thinking of what else. Edge and Jeff Hardy had a pretty good match in 2009. 2010, Orton and Sheamus I didn't care. 2011, Miz and Orton was alright. Ziggler and Punk from 2012 was Punk and Rock, I never loved. I thought it was a good match. I thought the rematch was better. Cena Orton was shit. And so, yeah, I'd probably go Lesnar, Orton, Cena. Lesnar, Rollins, Cena, I'm sorry. Wow, Lesnar, Orton, Cena would be pretty cool, too, considering their history from OVW in 2002. Throw Batista in there as well. But not Shelton Benjamin. That'd be weird. But anyway. So, yeah. I'd probably go with that WWE title match from last year's installment as my favorite WWE title match in the Royal Rumble's history. Should Elias Sampson's Drifter gimmick get a serious tweak? My suggestion, instead of a guitar, he carries a bunch of local... I think your question got cut off there. I didn't see another tweet the follow-up tweet. But, yeah, it should get a serious tweak. I'm not buying it so far. It's very boring. He's a great worker. I just don't really care about it right now. So it should be tweaked because right now, as of this moment, I just, I don't really care. So anyway, the next question comes from Matt Sean Marcus. I never know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. But will Roman Reigns enter number 1 in the Royal Rumble? Probably find out tonight on Raw. Like I said, you are watching this after Raw because I'm putting it up after Raw. They might give him the slot tonight, but I feel like he will be. There's no reason for them not to do it. If they really want to have Roman Reigns lose the belt so badly, why wouldn't they put him in number 1 and number 2? If he came out at number 10 or something, it would make no sense. So, from a storyline standpoint, they hold the power to give people spots they want to have. So, yeah, Reigns should be number 1 in the Rumble, and I think he probably will be. 3 matches you would like to see at WrestleMania 32. Wow. If we're talking without injuries here, or maybe including injuries, I put Owens Lesnar. I want to see that at WrestleMania. Won't happen, but I would love to see it. Ambrose Jericho, I think, could happen and will happen, and I would love to see it. And for my third match here, Cena Taker, I want to see happen at WrestleMania. I don't think it's going to happen because Cena's still I feel like we'll still be out hurt by WrestleMania. There's a chance they could rush him back, but I feel like Cena Taker is off the card, but I would still love to see it at WrestleMania had he knock on hurt Cena. Realistically, maybe Taker Balor. Again, not that realistic considering Balor will probably not even be on the main roster at WrestleMania. But those are 2 matches that I would love to see. 3 matches that I would love to see at WrestleMania 32. That's complete fantasy booking though. Their next question: how do you think the WWE Universe, or the WWE rather, why did I say Universe? How do you think the WWE will crown a number 1 contender to wrestle the champion at WrestleMania 32? Maybe a tournament, or maybe Reigns gets his rematch. I feel like that's probably what it's going to be. Reigns gets his rematch at WrestleMania, whoever he loses it to. So maybe if Reigns won't be in the title match at WrestleMania, he gets his title rematch at Fastlane, and they do like a number 1 contenders 4-way or tournament or whatever on Raw, which could be really, really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they go about that to crown a new number 1 contender to the title after the Rumble, since that will crown a new champion and not a challenger for WrestleMania. Ali STFU, are you even into WWE like you used to be, or has the momentum died down? Absolutely. I think I love it even more every day. As every day goes by, I think my love for wrestling grows even more. If that makes sense. It's a tongue twister, but if that makes sense. If you're just talking about me specifically or anyone else in general, you said you directed it towards me. So I don't know if you're talking about like my personal passion for WWE or wrestling, whatever. No, it's never really died down. I mean, I've always been as equally, if not more, passionate about WWE, even more so by the day, but never less so, ever. So no, to answer your question. I don't even know what kind of question that is, because I tweet about it all the time, so I think you kind of already know the answer to that question. And final 2 questions from @E13A. Does Kalisto have a bigger upside than Alberto Del Rio that should make him a top priority for WWE to protect right now? Yes, I feel like he is a bigger priority, and he's a bigger deal, and he has more upside. Del Rio has already had his upside. He's had his time to shine. He's already been 4-time world champion. I don't care about Del Rio anymore. I care about Kalisto in the future. He is a great talent, and they should absolutely protect him more, and he should be a bigger priority. Why bring back Del Rio to be the Latino star and pay him a bunch of money, pay him a bunch of pesos for no reason? He's a good talent. He's good to have on the roster, but there was not a clamoring for Del Rio to come back to WWE. Maybe when he first got fired and people felt he got wronged, but he said himself he didn't want to go back, and he only came back for the money. That much is obvious. I mean, good for him for getting a nice little paycheck, but he does not do anything for me in 2016 rather. And @E13A's final question: went to an NXT house show in Chicago held in the afternoon and saw some people who traveled from other states, example Minnesota. There was a conversation about how NXT can easily sell out a show in the Allstate Arena or even the United Center, WrestleMania 22's venue. Do you think NXT's popularity is truly strong enough to easily sell out grand arenas? I mean, they sold out the Barclays Center. I don't know if that's a grand arena. I know the Allstate Arena is probably a lot bigger. Yeah, I mean, I think it can be over time, especially now that the NXT brand is so high. I was shocked they sold out Brooklyn. But people genuinely love NXT, and there's certainly a buzz about the product, so much though that people will buy tickets to the shows and make it a sellout. So, yeah, it's definitely feasible. Maybe not right now, like to sell out like the Tokyo Dome or something like that. That big enough of arena. But, yeah, I think there's a chance. And it's definitely possible. It's definitely, plausible to have NXT sell out those grand arenas, especially in due time as they get more stars, more star power, and the promotion continues to build and build and build. So that, folks, is #AskGSM for this week, January 18th, 2016, on this long journey, this hour-and-a-half video. As always, if you stayed from beginning to end, I love you, I appreciate you. Even if you watched a minute of the video, I still appreciate you and your viewing. You guys are great. So I got a couple minutes until Raw, before Raw starts, and this is going up after Raw. So hopefully, when watching this, you enjoyed Raw, and we got Rumble on Sunday, baby, next week. I don't know what I'm recording because I have my whole class schedule gone. And I start classes next week. My new semester starts up. My new semester starts up next Monday. I'm going back on Sunday, like right before the Rumble. I'll be watching Rumble on campus with RJ. And then, I have class the next day. So that said, I don't know where my schedule I'll be able to fit in time to film #. I'll let you guys know. Even if it's on a Tuesday or something, we might have to move it to a Tuesday. I hope now. We'll have to wait and see. We'll see where my schedule where it fits in with my schedule and whatnot. It depends when I get like the dorm to myself when my roommate's gone at class. That's like how I was able to find time, because I hate like doing it when he's in the room, because I hate like annoying him with my voice for like an hour and a half, and I've done it before, and I just feel bad, you know. So we'll see what we have to do. Stay tuned to these social media pages, or pages. I like to say pages, like Jericho does on his podcast, pages, for more updates on #AskGSM next week. But first and foremost, guys, enjoy the Rumble on Sunday. It's gonna be a great night. I got a feeling. I got a feeling that the Rumble's gonna be a great night, or something like that. I think the lyrics go something like that, but anyway, if you want to send in a question for #AskGSM, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter, guys, @WrestleRant, with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook. Leave a comment there at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. On the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or on the wall itself. And if you're too lazy, like most of us are, I'm too lazy, I would have done this too. If you don't want to go to the social media pages, you don't want to tweet me on Twitter, and you don't want to like me on Facebook, fine, do it. But you can always leave a comment down below with your question. I'll be sure to include it in next week's video, as I always say. So as always, guys, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support is immensely appreciated. You guys are amazing. Truly, I thank you. Truly, really amazing, awesome. Have an amazing week. You guys deserve it. Enjoy Rumble on Sunday. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Hopefully you're excited as I am. I don't know if anyone could beat my excitement for Sunday's show, especially if Styles and or Joe debut in the Rumble, especially Styles. If you hear glass breaking on Sunday, it is not Stone Cold Steve Austin. It is me jumping through at least 5 windows. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, guys, have a great rest of your week. Have a very fun Royal Rumble Sunday. It's losing my words here. I'm so excited. I'm at a loss for words. Have a very fun, enjoyable, safe, and entertaining Royal Rumble weekend. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road to WrestleMania.